everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which your own joystick can be a force for good. That sounded wrong. And I come to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon with Dog, Cat, Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to Thursday. Nearly the end of the year Thursday. Yes, we're just a couple of days away from 2023. So this is the last TED Excellence of 2022. Oh boy. Hopefully we can go out with a bang. Hopefully. We'll see. Because tonight, apparently, we're going to be told how gaming can be a force for good. If you can believe in the concept. Because as we know, video games are the devil's work. I guess I have some theories on what this might be before we begin. But before we begin, who's joining me this evening for this beautiful last TED Excellence of 2022? Noah Asensio, hello. Derek LaRue, hello. Mike R, hello. Plague Doctor, hello. Who else is here? Zeke Weiss, hello. Somnamnul Nation, hello. And Shadowclaw, hello. It's a Llama, hello. Jonathan Peterson, hello. Funtime Bats, hello. Swirl Blue, hello. Mr. Tickletrunk, hello. And Keeverdam, hello. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. Robert Pincus, hello. Keldrig, hello. The Best Remy, hello. Emperor W.R. Costin, hello. This is Kyle, hello. If I didn't already say hello to This is Kyle, I think I did, didn't I? Did I? I did. Okay. And thank you, Derek LaRue, once again, so much for your generosity. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. And in that vein, a special announcement tonight. A puppy needs your help. Twisted Skipster's little puppy, Rosebud, was hit by a car. And as a consequence of this, Rosebud needs medical attention and medical procedures and so on and so forth. So if you will avert your attention or direct your attention to the top of the chat box, there is a link there to a GoFundMe to help out little Rosebud, the puppy, for medical expenses oncoming or already incurred. It's not much in the grand scheme of things. I think the total being asked for is $800. So if you have a couple of bucks to spare, it'll go a long way to helping a little puppy tonight. So let's think about doing that. Before you think about donating to me, please consider donating to Twisted Skipster and Little Rosebud. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Tack Alpaca, hello. And Tall Person, hello. The Useless Cook, hello. I think I got everybody I see. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, hello, and I hope you're doing well. All right, so how gaming can be a force for good. How could gaming be a force for good? I don't know, bringing people together, improving hand-eye coordination, expanding people's imaginations, becoming a career, that kind of thing. Or, and I'm just guessing here, I don't know, but are we going to hear something like... we could use the stories in games to push a more just society, something like that. Or I don't know. I'm thinking something like that, right? Normalize this or representative that, or that's what I'm guessing. I could be wrong. I'd be glad to be wrong and find out that I'm actually listening to something worthwhile for once from TED or TED Excellence. It does happen occasionally. Yes, and tonight is an actual TED Talk, cream of the crop, top of the heap, TED Talk. So we're in for some quality. This isn't, I mean, so the show's called TED Excellence, but, you know, I do occasionally check out TED because TED is so much better than TEDx on certain days, sometimes. Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. The end of an age, yet the beginning of your story. The never-ending story. Yes, the never-ending story. Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. All right, who else is here real quick? Oopsie Drewathing. Did I get that right? I hope so. Hello. And Shell D, hello. And again, if I missed anybody or if you're lurking or if you're in the future, hello. All right. So with all that being said, we're going to start out with a few seconds for a sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we'll find out somehow how gaming can be a force for good. Oh, by the way, the bingo card tonight is bingo card A as in Atari, which was the winner of the poll on Twitter. If you'd like to follow along and participate in the poll to pick the bingo card each week, Follow me on Twitter at scribe_light. There we go. There's my plug for my Twitter feed. There you go. All right. Here we go. Whoa. Wee. Okay. Do you guys hear that already? Do you hear all the ping and the music and the thing and the stuff? I'll back up a little bit here. Not much. Okay. We can hear it, says Mr. Tickle Trunk. Heard it, says Kiever Dam. All right. That's good enough for me. And, Tyrannus, Alexandrius, Tremere Lich. Hello. A Scanner Daftly. Hello. Good evening. Good evening.
Do you spend more money on virtual fashion and video games than you do on physical clothes?
No.
About a third of all teenage gamers in America do.
Oh.
Do you think the government is actually run by a secret cabal of demon-worshipping perverts?
Well, it really depends on the day.
About 50 million people do. These numbers sound crazy to you? It's because they are.
Well, I don't know. How about they release the list of Epstein's clients, and then we'll figure that out. Is there a reason that still hasn't been released by any chance? Just wondering.
But they're also a sign of things to come.
Okay.
The world feels like a pretty insane place right now. If you spend any time on the internet at all, you can probably tell that people think it's going to get a lot worse.
Well, let's be honest, because it has been. Those memes are based somewhat in a grain of truth. Like, what was someone able to afford on a basic salary 30, 40, 50 years ago? What is the condition of things now? Where are we as a society when we have to debate what is or is not a woman? Where children are being exposed to books about graphic sexuality. I mean, I'm starting to sound like some kind of, a Christian fundamentalist out of the 80s or something going off on rock music. And yet I feel like I'm being completely reasonable when I say these things. Yeah, things have gotten worse. I think things have gotten demonstrably worse. It's not one of those like, oh, I'm an old man now and I'm just cynical about things, yada, yada, yada. No, I think things have gotten markedly, obviously worse over the last 15, 20 years in particular. But again, maybe someone who's younger than me is used to this stuff and they have no sense of perspective. So who knows?
Now, that may be the case. But this feeling is why I believe that we're going to see a rise in social unrest in the coming decades.
Oh, gosh, you think? In the coming decades? A rise in social unrest? You mean aside from the Summer of Love 2020, when everything was burning down over nothing? Oh, you think? You think we'll see a rise in social unrest? Wow, boy, let me get out my tea leaves.
And that it's going to come from a surprising place. Video games.
Yes, video games, social unrest from video. Okay, well, all right. I'm here to learn. I'm here to listen. Explain to me how video games are going to lead to a rise of social unrest.
Now, before you think, is this going to be another talk linking video games to violence? Sorry to disappoint you. That's been proven conclusively wrong, and that is really old thinking.
Well, then you and I have a very different definition of social unrest. Or are you just talking about like social dissatisfaction?
But what I am going to argue is that video games are going to become the platform through which tomorrow's social battles will be fought, and the source of recruitment for some of the strangest and possibly most impactful social movements of the future.
So video games will lead to violence. Unless you're talking about like a robot jock situation where like we use video games as a platform to deal with disputes on a national level without actually going to war. If that was the case, hey, I'd be all for it. You guys see robot jocks? Achilles! Anyway.
I like to call these video game cults.
I like to call these video game cults. Well, that sounds like a new buzzword, buzz phrase to me. So let's hone in on that one, I guess. Holy cats, guys. All right, so going to the bingo card, let's remind ourselves what it is that we're looking for. Let's see. First off, collectivizes own demographic, not yet. Systemic or institutional, not yet. Sales pitch for product or service. I guess it depends on which games he decides to highlight as the good games. Childhood or family anecdote, not yet. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, no. Plays victim, no. Microaggressions, unconscious bias, No. Privilege, not yet. Contradicts own point or argument. Yeah. I don't mean video games are going to lead to violence. I just mean that video games are going to be used as a means by which to increase violence. Circling that one. Patriarchy, no, not yet. Weightless example. Wage gap. Feminism. Marginalized or marginalization. A list, that has to be a formal list of the presentation. White supremacy. Extremist groups. Could be. Word salad, self-vilification or wretchedness, argumentative non sequitur, attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase, and I'm circling that one because he just did it there. It's an attempt. I don't know if it'll catch on. Mind reading assumes motives. Yeah, I think we might have already hit that one. We'll see. Benevolent condescension, possibly again. Anecdote that probably never happened. And lastly, leaves out vital context. So far on the board, I have circled. Remember, this is bingo card A. I have contradicts, own point or argument, free space, and attempt to coin new buzzword or buzz phrase. And thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk, again. Read The Better Angels of Our Nature. You'll be surprised how much better the world gets every year. Some things suck, but most improve. Chin up. Well, thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. I try to have an optimistic attitude about things, but I do spend way too much time on Twitter. That's probably my problem. Actually, I know it's my problem. I got a problem. I need an intervention. Do they have Twitter intervention yet? They really should. That'd be a great show, wouldn't it? Like something you'd broadcast on Twitter.
Sounds kind of scary,
Yeah.
I admit, but I hope to show how they might also be used as a tool to cause some serious hope.
You want to use a cult for good.
Now, this is all just my personal opinion, but I started thinking about this a few years ago after I heard a very interesting story while working in the Gulf.
Which Gulf?
The story was about Hassan ibn Sabah, a charismatic young preacher who lived about 1,000 years ago in an age full of drama, conflict, and social change.
Okay.
Hassan became famous for creating the Order of Assassins.
Oh, sounds cool. Was he what the Assamites were based off of? Ooh, if you guys know Vampire the Masquerade, yeah, the Assamites, sort of a clan of assassins.
A
Interesting.
fanatically devoted group of young men known as the Fedayeen, those who sacrifice themselves.
I see.
His men were so devoted to him that the legend goes they would throw themselves from the rafters to their death at his command. Actually, this is where we get the expression "a leap of faith" from.
Oh, so Assassin's Creed. Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. I'm seeing a connection here. All right.
This got me thinking, why would someone do this? What could
have a cult of assassins because it's freaking cool?
convince someone so fervently to believe in something that they would welcome their own death?
That question. Oh, it's called religion.
The answer is 11th century virtual reality.
What?
See, Hassan had cultivated a myth that he could send people to heaven and bring them back again without actually having to die. And of course, he didn't actually have this power, but before a mission, the story goes, he would dose his soldiers with massive amounts of hash. Their enemies actually called them the Hashashin, which is also where we get the word assassin from. This would knock them out, and then he would lower them down into a secret garden he had built behind his mountain fortress, designed to look exactly like a replica of heaven. Waking up in the simulated paradise, his men would gorge themselves on all the things they had been denied in life.
Oh, so women as well? Okay, so you have a charismatic cult leader who's using mind control in order to get his supplicants to do what he wants, even to the point of sacrificing their own lives for his wants, needs, and desires.
Then, after a night of ecstasy, they would awaken back in their barracks, convinced of Hassan's powers, eager to fulfill his suicide missions in order to return to heaven again.
And this is a method by which you want to use people for positive ends.
So, what does this have to do with today?
Yeah.
Well, most scholars agree that this is probably just a myth, but that's not the point.
Okay, it's probably just a myth, but that's not the point. The method is what matters.
The point is that people believed deeply in Hassan and his vision for the world and were willing to sacrifice their lives for it.
So you say, but wait, which part is the myth? The virtual reality part or the whole throwing themselves off of roofs part?
He gave them a sense of meaning and purpose during a time of great uncertainty.
Yes.
A purpose which he communicated using the best tools of his day.
Uh-huh.
And that is what brings us to video games.
Okay, your again, your introduction to whatever you're about to say is, what can we learn from a suicidal murder cult and apply that to video games? I got to tell you, your pitch so far sounds not like a positive one.
Video games are already the world's dominant form of entertainment. They're 3 times larger than the entire global film and music industries combined.
Uh-huh.
Every year, the top streamers on Twitch receive on average twice as many views as the biggest Hollywood movies.
And that is a questionable decision, but hey, people are going to watch what they're going to watch, I guess.
And collectively, we spend twice as much time watching and playing video games as we do using all other forms of social media combined.
Okay.
That's a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah.
Game sales are huge, but the real action is in in-game economies, where people spend over $130 billion a year buying and selling virtual goods online.
Yeah. CSGO gambling. And buying that new skin for your Marvel Avengers Hulk or something. Yeah. In-game transactions, microtransactions are the work of the devil. I will give you that much. Yeah.
Everything from outfits to avatars to vehicles to weapons to dances to architecture to music to access to live events and more.
Yeah, this is why physical media is so much better, because as soon as those servers go down, all your money goes along with it, and you're only paying for an intangible thing. Right? Yeah. This is why I always thought that if you're going to have some kind of special outfit or something in an MMO or whatever, it needs to be earned in some way. It actually needs to signify that you've accomplished something. When you start making those outfits and those weapons and things available for like purchase, it really robs the whole mystique of a game and the sense of accomplishment that you can have in your players. I remember, like, what was it? It was, I honestly forget what MMO it was. It was an old MMO. It might have been like an Ultima Online or something, or maybe early World of Warcraft, where someone was walking around with some giant sword. And when you saw this person with that sword, you knew the only way they could have gotten that sword is if they had done some ridiculous dungeon or something, right? It wasn't something like, oh yeah, you must have bought it off of the marketplace. Now, the only way you get that sword, and it's bound to you, you can't sell it or whatever else, it came from that thing. It was a status symbol. It was a mark of some kind of merit. Oh, those were the days.
I haven't even mentioned NFT or Web3, but these hopefully will become the infrastructure that drives this going forward.
No. Oh, you're pushing NFTs? Oh, you lost me. No. This is hopefully the infrastructure that drives this forward. You're pitching NFTs in video game economies. I'm not saying that this isn't something that isn't already happening, but if you're a salesman or pro that stuff, oh, you already lost me.
So if you're wondering what the metaverse looks like.
Now the metaverse? Oh, okay, so we went from video games as a platform by which to create religious extremists to NFT promotion and metaverse. Yeah, okay, the metaverse, the grand MMO that keeps being promised, and if it ever actually gets built, it'll have more bugs, problems, leaks, issues than any average MMO. I mean, I said this before. Look at what happened with Amazon's New World, right? You had the company with limitless funds, access to all the talent you could possibly want in the industry, the prestige of the name and the possibility of creating the next epic MMO. And what happens? The whole thing is a buggy mess. It has got exploits and loopholes and problems from day one and onward. I don't hear about people praising New World anymore. They're waiting for the next thing or the next World of Warcraft release or whatever. Now imagine an MMO 1,000 times more complex than your average MMO. That's the metaverse. And with every level of complexity you add, more levels, more problems. So pitching the metaverse, again, you've lost me.
This is it. The reason games are so
That's the metaverse? That's it? Okay.
successful is because they provide a
Wait. Back up. What'd you say? Say that again.
So if you're wondering what the metaverse looks like, this is it. The reason games are so successful is because they provide a deep sense of engagement, community, and purpose.
If you have a good game, some games just suck. But a game and the metaverse are two completely different things.
Yes, we use them to escape and to entertain, and that's okay.
That's also the primary motivator.
But at their best, they speak to some of our primal social and psychological needs, from feeling effective, to achieving our goals, to belonging to a group, to working for something bigger than yourself.
Yes, they can feed that need, that escapist need of accomplishing something, having a goal, working towards it, defeating an enemy or solving a problem. Yes, all of these things feed into the dopamine reflex we get out of having a success in something. Yeah, it's escapism from the doldrums of regular life, where most times you're not doing much except your everyday routine, and you might not feel like you're accomplishing much. But in video games, you can be a superhero, you can be an assassin, you can be a detective or whatever. Yes.
Describing his experience in a top World of Warcraft guild, the player Wincy once wrote, "It felt so amazing." Thinking back, it was probably the most intense, positive, emotional experience of my life. Not my kid being born, not getting married.
Okay, I have had this happen before, not in an MMO, not in an online space, but in a live action role-playing space, right? Where you're essentially having to act unscripted, spontaneously. You're interacting with people in everyday life you otherwise wouldn't talk to, but in that forum, in that place, you are your character, they are their character. And when I tell you, sometimes I remember interactions I had between my character and other characters where everything was cooking and clicking so well that if you were observing it from the outside, you would think it was a scripted drama because things played out so well. And it wasn't scripted. It was completely spontaneous. And it's very exhilarating when those things click together. I have had MMO role-playing or team activities and things that are memorable because things were clicking. You're interacting with other people. You're talking to them over a TeamSpeak or something. You're accomplishing a goal. It's a memory. Yes, these things can be very profound. It's true. But you're talking about exploiting that. Okay, your example of the Assassin's Guild indicates to me that you're looking to exploit these mechanisms of community, of fun, of connectedness, of accomplishment towards an agenda. Now, I don't know what your agenda is yet necessarily, but regardless of what it is, it already sounds creepy. We'll get there, I'm sure. Thank you, Ms. Tickletrunk again. Metaverse cost Facebook 23% its share value. Dead. Yeah. Where's the metaverse? I mean, they changed their name to Meta. They were going to be at the forefront of this whole thing. Yeah, well, again, like I say, the metaverse is just a disastrous MMO in the making. And apparently, I forget who, was it Derek or someone, who's he quoting? This is Mr. Tickletrunk. This is some World of Warcraft gamer who I'm sure whatever their name was is notable to someone who's a World of Warcraft aficionado. I don't know who it is.
My mind was convinced we were in a war against an insurmountable foe, and we won.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably see where I'm going with this. Although he later went on to regret the amount of time he spent online, gamers develop a deep sense of commitment to a shared narrative world.
Whoa. You went over that one real quick. He regretted the amount of time he spent online? That doesn't seem like an offhanded comment. That sounds like something profound you should put into the mix there. Okay.
A world which provides for them in a way that real-world jobs and relationships often do not.
Uh-huh.
And this is already the world that our children live in.
Unfortunately.
The only thing that my son and daughter want for their birthdays are Skyblox coins and digital emotes for their characters.
I could say something here about questioning your parenting quality, but I'll refrain because I just kind of already did.
Most of their social time outside of school is spent hanging out in-game with their friends. My son, Teo, he's already flipping NFTs to, in his words, get rich as quickly as possible so he can take care of us when the world falls apart.
Your son is on a road to ruin.
Thanks, Teo. Appreciate that. That's why I think games are going to be one of the driving forces of tomorrow's culture.
Okay, where have you been for the last 30 years? Games have been a driving force in culture more and more for decades. You just said so yourself. You're not making some kind of crazy, amazing prediction. Did I just...
But if that's the games part, what about the cults part?
Yeah, tell us about the cults.
I'm sure we could all agree that the coming years are going to be interesting, to say the least.
I hope so. You know, good, bad, or indifferent, as long as it's interesting. Although I'd prefer less bad, but still, it's, you know.
From climate change.
Oh, God.
Mass migration.
Uh-huh.
Pandemics.
Oh, there's more on the way? Okay.
Job loss.
Yeah.
And now war.
Oh, yeah, because we haven't been in a constant state of war year over year, basically since I was born. I mean, nary 3 years go by without us being involved in some military conflict of either brief or long duration in my lifetime. Oh, and by the way, guys, did you know that video games are going to change culture?
The future feels terrifying for many people. And this is having a tremendous impact on our mental health.
Uh-huh.
1/3 of all US undergraduates surveyed report having moderate to severe anxiety.
I can't imagine why that might be after the last couple of years of doom, gloom, and you're going to die and kill grandma if you don't wear a mask over your face. Gee, I wonder where all that anxiety came from, you know, or, you know, cities being burned down. I wonder where all of that might have come from.
Their rates of suicidal thinking and severe depression doubled over the last decade or so.
Yeah.
And COVID didn't help. But it's not just the US either.
Oh, yeah.
2/3 of those surveyed in a study of 17 different countries reported that they thought their children were going to grow up poorer and not have successful careers.
Well, given what the adults in the room, quote unquote, have been doing for the last 3 to 5 years, I'm not surprised.
In other words, the world feels like it's falling apart for a lot of people.
Uh-huh.
And when worlds fall apart, people start looking for answers wherever they can find them. And charismatic leaders like Hassan have always been happy to provide them. And their actions have shaped the course of history, from the Protestant Reformation in the 16th century to the rise of new religious movements in the 19th century. Every era of social change historically has been followed by a wave of new believers and fanatical behavior.
And that's a good thing? Where are you going with this?
QAnon is just the most recent example.
Oh, gee. Really? Really? You're putting QAnon up alongside the Protestant Reformation? Jesus. Really? Really? Buffalo Shaman is up there with, like, what, Martin Luther? Are you out of your mind? Okay. Boy, I gotta go to the bingo card. On this one. Let's see. There's something. Okay, childhood or family anecdote. He talked about his son. Let me circle that one. And by the way, guys, if you've been yelling at me about bingo card squares, sorry, I've just been transfixed. I'll go over the card here in a second. Thank you, Chicago Mike. Merry belated Christmas, Scribe. It's also the 4th day of Christmas. Did your true love send you 4 calling birds yet? On the 4th day of Christmas, my true love sent to me. Is that it? I know it's 5 golden rings on the 5th day. 4 calling birds. No, I did not receive 4 calling birds. I did receive a bath kit with, like, bubble bath and like you know, soaps and things, and it's all like sandalwood. and it smells really nice. I'll probably use that soon. That has nothing to do with birds, unless it was tested on them, I guess. Oh, also, ask if you guys see Ranting Monkey in a upcoming Monkey in the Morning, ask him how he likes his cowboy hat. I already know that he likes it, but I just, he'd probably want to talk about it too if he hasn't already. Thank you again, Mr. Jiggletrunk. Be right back. Off to bubble wrap more kids and confuse them about the world while not letting them learn how to solve their own problems. Yeah, when our speaker starts talking about how his kids spend most of their time in video games and NFTs and everything else and feeling like the world is going to fall apart, it's not my place to tell somebody how to raise their kids, but if I see signs that maybe you need to do a better job of spending more time with your kids and increasing their optimism about the world and maybe focusing on things that are actually relevant and important in life at such a young age, you might want to think about doing it. Just saying. Jenna P is in the chat. Jenna P. Hi, Jenna P. Long time no see. Hope you're doing good in the family. Kiradam, thank you so much. Weightless example when he said, what does this have to do with today? Well, he's purportedly going to answer that question, right? That's a lead into him explaining what it has to do with today. So it's not weightless yet unless he doesn't actually end up answering that question. I want to give him a chance. I want to give him a chance. And thank you again, Mr. Tickletrunk. Let's continue telling kids the world will end. Yeah. Climate change, Greta Thunberg, everything's going to end in 10 years if we don't do something right now. We're not going to have a planet to survive on. It's all going to be a burning rock soon. I wonder why kids are feeling like there's nothing left, why their anxiety is up, why they feel like there's no future. I can't imagine who's been putting that idea in their heads for the last 10 years or more. But anyway, back to Buffalo Shaman being on the same level as the Protestant Reformation.
And while each generation's cults look different and the definition of a cult is certainly up for debate, they do share general characteristics. The first is that they inspire a sense of higher purpose, often through a lens of good versus evil, where you are the hero. It creates a sense of passion or commitment that seems insane or irrational to the outsider. And the second is that they adopt the form of and use the tools of the dominant organizations of their day. From the church,
yes,
to the corporation, to the social media network, to our subject for today, the metaverse.
Okay, so, and I'm just hoping here, you're going to say the metaverse is a format, or I should say platform on which bad things will come about, right? Because so far you talked about assassin guilds and QAnon, but now the metaverse. Okay, so are you warning against extremism in online spaces? Because I thought this whole thing was supposed to be gaming can be a force for good. I'm confused as to where this is going.
So what happens when you mix billions of people looking for meaning, safety, and security with widespread virtual worlds, crypto economies, and gaming culture?
I don't know. I'm guessing a recipe for disaster. Thank you, Tyrannus Alexandrius. As the new QAnon shaman, I plan to reform our order. Oh, okay. Well, yes, because as we know, they have such a formal hierarchy. You might as well, sure, yeah. You're the Grand Poobah now, so you can start a splinter group, like whew anon, like whew anon, like a relief or something. I don't know.
The answer, I believe, is game cults.
Oh, wait! You just said that. You said video game cults, and now you're calling them game. Oh, you got two of them. Two buzz phrases in one show. Okay. So redundancy, Department of Redundancy.
Large-scale social movements, powered by extreme or bizarre beliefs, birthed in virtual worlds, driven by game dynamics, but with real-world consequence.
Coney 2012.
The future is about to get weird.
Okay, again, are you promoting this, or is this a warning? Because the title of your presentation would indicate otherwise.
We can already see examples of this all around us. We just haven't had a name for it yet.
Oh.
Softer versions look like BTS stans swarming Donald Trump rallies online. But more extreme versions look like Hezbollah's own custom-made video game called Special Forces, designed to recruit young people and train them to kill their enemies.
So it's a really, really cheap 1999 Call of Duty.
White nationalist groups are hosting Call of Duty tournaments online to
White nationalists. I'm going to circle white supremacy. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Hezbollah has their own video game. White nationalists have their own video game. Do you know that there were quote unquote recruitment material video games for extremist groups so far as back as, oh, I remember them being back in like the 90s and the 80s, right? I see a news story on 60 Minutes once in a while. It's like, here's the game that's recruiting new racists or something. And it'd be some cheap, like, Flash video game or something, or just like some push button hypercard deal. Okay. And how popular are these games, by the way? How successful in recruiting people are these games, by the way? Look how crappy they are. Why would I want to play this stupid thing when I get Call of Duty?
White nationalist groups are hosting Call of Duty tournaments online to
Oh, well, what do I know? Call of Duty. Call of Duty tournaments online, huh? Uh-huh. And how successful are they at recruiting new people?
attract followers. And there are Roblox games where you can drive your car through Black Lives Matter protesters.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Or assume the role of Kyle Rittenhouse and shoot anti-fascist protesters.
Anti-fascist protesters, that's who he was shooting? And he was just doing it willy-nilly, by the way. That's all he was doing, too. Yeah, he wasn't shooting at people who were attacking him first. We didn't have a whole trial about that. Oh, okay. Oh, also, did you know that in Grand Theft Auto, you can both solicit a prostitute and then kill her? And did you know that Gears of War, you can slaughter thousands of aliens with a chainsaw sword? You can do all types of things in video games that are false, not real, and nobody's actually getting hurt. Thank you, Mr. Tickle Trunk. Ladies and gents, the new Jack Thompson. Yeah, really? No kidding. Yeah, Postal. Postal. I loved Postal. The first game. The first game was so much creepier and so much more brutal and blunt than the subsequent games that like went far into the comedy of it. It really felt like I was doing something wrong when I was playing that game, and I loved it. But I also knew it was fake. I also knew it was fiction. Thank you, Keeverdam. What about driving SUVs through Christmas parades? Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. No, driving SUVs. SUVs drive themselves. What are you talking about? They're autonomous vehicles. They have no driver. SUV attack, etc.
And there are many other examples, but all of them are wrapped in a layer of Discord servers and YouTube channels and podcasts that act as a funnel to draw you deeper into a web of extremism and radical behavior.
Yes. Unstable people who cannot tell reality from fiction will be drawn into things that aren't real. It has been happening at least as long as your assassin guild. Okay, whether it's a cult or an extremist religion or a multi-level marketing scheme or whatever. Yes, this will happen. You're right. What are the odds of that number increasing over the course of, say, any other time in history? Social media probably brings people together quicker. But what are you pitching here? Where are we going with this? If you're warning against video game culture, well, that's completely against what you're talking about in your title. I'm still waiting for the punchline here. Thank you again, Mr. Tickletrunk. Or burning down cities. Oh, wait. Yeah. There's no mainstream video games where you can do these things. It's all in these extremist recruitment video things that look like absolute garbage. And Tyrannus, thank you again. Remember when video games and D&D were a nerd hobby? Oh, man, I wish they still were. Because when everybody else got their grubby hands on them and starts messing with them and like, oh, this is offensive. We can't use the word race in D&D anymore because it has negative connotations about real world demographics. Like, but it's fiction. Yeah, but orcs are just analogs for black people. Says you racist, that kind of stuff. It's like, good gravy. Oh, and what they did to Vampire the Masquerade. Oh, Lord. I've talked about this before. If you ever play Vampire the Masquerade, the tabletop game, don't go any further than the 20th anniversary edition of the core book. Everything after that, 5th ed, bleh. Anyway.
What starts on the screen no longer stays on the screen.
Okay, so I'm going to circle Contradict's own point or argument, because at the beginning of this thing, he said, I'm not talking about video games cause violence. I'm just talking about video games will lead to violence. That's all he's been doing now for this whole section. So circleizing. Contradict's own point or argument, circling that one. I already circled that. Sorry. I already circled that one. Dang it, I forgot. He so mesmerized me. I forgot about that. Okay, well, still works.
QAnon is a perfect example of this.
Oh, yeah.
It started on 4chan and Facebook, mutated into a live-action role-playing group for evangelical militants, and ended up as an anti-vaccination campaign. Before you know it, we have 1 million excess deaths from COVID in the United States.
What?
And a political landscape far stranger than anything we've ever seen.
Wait, whoa. QAnon is responsible for 1 million COVID deaths. Boy, you are pumping them up into something that they're not. Okay. Damn. Okay. Well, that's news to me. QAnon is responsible for 1 million COVID deaths. Excess COVID deaths. All those people died because of QAnon. Or are you saying that those 1 million people were all QAnon followers? Being skeptical over a vaccine is QAnon's fault. Now, well, okay. All right.
The same is going to be true for games.
Is this a good thing or a bad thing? What are you promoting?
First, you're a player. Then you're a fan.
Uh-huh.
Soon you're in a clan. And before you know it, you're invading the Capitol.
Oh, God. Okay, so wait. Okay, Tyrannus, thank you again. Don't make me remember how they massacred Vampire the Masquerade. I'm sorry. It was my primary game of choice for years, and it still stings. It still stings. Wait a second. So an example in which you had to strain to connect any kind of gaming to the quote-unquote organization that is QAnon. Now you're equating video game culture as the gateway drug to attacking the Capitol building. Are you out of your mind? I think so. Thank you, Chicago Mike. I came in late, but word salad. I don't know if it's word salad. I understood what he's saying. I think it's more appropriately...
What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? Right?
Yeah, no, that was definitely a WTF. He went from okay. So video games are no longer the gateway drug to just violence unto themselves. They're the gateway drug to indoctrination into extremist groups that then lead to violence. There's at least, 2 steps in between one to the other. Oh, okay. Okay. This is your warning. Mr. Tickle Trunk. Jack Thompson. Yeah, this is the Canadian Jack Thompson. This is the Canadian Jack. If you guys don't know who Jack Thompson is, or was, I don't know if I think he's still alive. Either way. Yeah, Jack Thompson was this guy back in the late 80s, early 90s, thereabouts, who was very, very strident in wanting to outlaw video games, and video games were terrible, and video games are going to lead to violence, and Grand Theft Auto is a murder simulator, on and on and on, stuff like that. People like him and Joe Lieberman, completely out against video games. But yeah, Jack Thompson was sort of like the grand poobah of video game fear culture back in the olden days. And this guy is essentially doing Jack Thompson's shtick, is what I was trying to say. But just for a modern audience. Thank you, Scanner Daffy. Pretty funny that this guy is chugging the Flavor Aid, but doesn't even realize he is a full-blown cultist. Enjoy some of the scratch-off present winnings. Oh, thank you, Scanner Daffy. Appreciate that very much. And congratulations again on your scratch-off windfall. Okay. All right. So video games equal QAnon capital attack. Got it.
So I'm a futurist.
If you say so.
And there's a saying with futurists that your job is not to just predict the automobile, but to predict the traffic jams. So what might this look like in 10 or 20 years when widespread augmented and virtual reality meets thriving crypto economies and a generalized crisis of meaning?
Thriving crypto economies. I'm going to assume, I have to assume, actually, I think I'm pretty accurate in saying this was probably filmed before the FTX scandal broke. Not to say that there hasn't been crypto disasters prior to that certainly occurred before and during this presentation's recording. Thriving crypto economies, metaverse. Dude, okay, all right, you tell me, what are things going to look like if any of that actually comes to pass?
Well, in the future, games are going to be everywhere.
Really? Wow, thanks, Kreskin. Boy, oh boy, do you think so, guys? Do you think there'll be a video game in every household? Dude, what? Okay, if he was giving this speech back in like 1987, then maybe it might sound revolutionary and or prophetic to a certain degree, but he's not. He's not doing that.
They're going to move from our screens and onto the streets around us.
Onto the streets? How? You mean like 3-card Monty?
Hundreds of millions, if not billions of people will be buying, selling, making, and trading virtual goods online.
They already are. Have you ever heard of eBay? Have you ever heard of selling a sword from Ultima Online on eBay or otherwise? Have you heard of CSGO? What are you talking about? Dude, people have been buying gold for real money for World of Warcraft for years. Did this guy fall asleep in the last 25 years or something? Thank you, Chicago Mike. Futurist on drugs? I don't know what... Again, I have to stop myself and think back to the worst article I ever read on Lords of the Night, and Sinatra saying, this makes perfect sense if the audience for it knows nothing about video games in this case. And I suppose maybe, but all the same, what?
They're going to assume roles as characters, follow quests, and get real-world money for in-game performance.
They already do. What?
Guilds, corporations, and clans will form around them. They might start offering salaries, paying benefits, and providing real-world services like education or healthcare or even security.
Have you ever heard of FaZe Clan? Have you ever heard of these actual professional gaming groups that are companies unto themselves? It's already happening, dude. Where the hell have you been?
People's entire lives will be built around their characters and their stories.
There's entire businesses been doing that for years. What the hell? Oh my God, this is so... Wait, hello? Welcome to the present. It's the future already. Thank you, Johnny Hellcat. I have an idea for a store. I can call it Amazon. Yeah. Right? Or gold farmers. Or professional players. Right? Or mod builders. Or... Oh my God.
Particularly if things get really bad.
Bad?
And those stories will come to dominate popular culture and politics.
And politics? Oh, okay. Well, tell me about that part.
Now, thankfully, not all of them will be harmful, but...
Not all of them will be harmful. I've just spent the last, 13 some odd minutes talking about assassin guilds and extremist groups, white supremacists, and Hezbollah. But no, they're not all going to be bad. Oh, okay. Well, tell me about the good ones. Tell me about how we can turn this for a force for good, as the title promised. And thank you again, Chicago Mike. Let's do the time warp again. This is really just Jack Thompson. Although his fear-mongering game is weak. Let me just put it that way.
Some will be violently evangelical in their nature.
Wait, stop. Wait, what? Hold on. Let's try that again.
Will be harmful.
Hold on. I want to make sure I get that full comment in its fullness.
Sure. And politics. Now, thankfully, not all of them will be harmful.
Not all of them will be harmful.
But some will be violently evangelical in their nature.
Okay. It took me a second. I thought he was contrasting and comparing the same thing. Violently evangelical. Okay, you've already said that they exist. Okay, and here's the thing. I don't know if you know this, speaker, but so long as there is a medium by which people can broadcast their thoughts and ideas, there will be interests and groups that are violently extremist or evangelical making use of those things. I don't know if you've heard of the printing press, right? But this very dangerous platform was used by people who have very extremist ideas to send them out into the world in mass media in a way they could not have done so previously. I know, it's crazy. But here's the thing. I don't know if you know this. Oftentimes, non-extremist, non-violent content supersedes the worst of it because most people, thankfully, most people are reasonable when it comes down to the worst impulses of human nature. Not always, but most of the time. So your fear-mongering towards anybody who has any sense of proportion and historical sense kind of falls by the wayside. Yeah, you're right, though. You're correct. The metaverse, if it ever really exists, will in some way, shape, or form be used by terrible people for terrible ends. That's life. It's not good. We need to stop it when we can, prevent it when we're able. And definitely, if they're being broken, prosecute the people doing those things. But it's going to happen, no matter what. It happens with every generation. It happens with every form of new media that comes out. What are you telling us, or what are you meaning to tell us that's going to be some new solution to this problem? Where are you going? You've only got 3 minutes left.
It's got me thinking, there must be a better way that we can use these dynamics to heal instead of harm.
Oh, yeah, okay. You mean, I don't know, publishing books of poetry, or books on personal care, or maybe like books of first aid, or using that same medium to promote universal goods in some way, shape, or form, right?
So I started thinking, what might this look like?
What does it look like right now? Past as prologue. What does it look like right now? Before the metaverse, how has the internet been used for good? What might that look like? You're living in it right now. You might as well have been living in it when television first came out, or radio first came out, or the printing press was invented. It's not that difficult to imagine. But okay, what do you think it will look like?
How can we explore possible futures for positive game cults? So here are just 3 examples I came up with a few friends.
Positive game cults. Right. So you want to use the same mechanisms by which you threaten people will turn into capital attackers, but for good. Okay, what is your definition of good that you're going to use game cults for? Use the mental and emotional manipulation of children for? I'm sorry, you don't get to spend 11, almost 12 minutes warning us about the dangers of cultish behavior in video games and then suddenly turn around and say, but hey, we can use this exploitive method for good.
Consider Druidica, a Minecraft-like nature game designed to restore damaged ecosystems and preserve indigenous knowledge.
Okay, sales pitch for product or service for sure. Now circled. Okay, so you want to use video games to promote your environmental and social agenda. And this is a good thing. You want to use a game cult, a particular game that you're now advertising. I wonder if you have any direct involvement in the development and or ownership of this game. I'd have to look that up later.
Or perhaps Walkabout, a Rust-like survival game for refugees designed to encourage skill sharing, interdependence, and mutual aid linked to scriptural messages of tolerance and compassion.
Scriptural. So you want to use game cults to promote religious beliefs. Okay.
Or perhaps Temple, a pray-to-earn game linked to a network of non-denominational meditation spaces where players can perform coordinated acts of care to level up on the good works board, a kind of decentralized church of kindness, powered maybe by Holy Coin.
Holy Coin! You're pitching NFT, you're pitching cryptocurrency. Whoa, dude. Great. That's great. Okay, man, can you imagine that? Leveraging religion for profit? I tell you, man, the future is now. Thank you, Chicago Mike. 3 things. Do you have a list down already? You know what? I don't, but now I do. I'm circling a list. Oh my gosh, dude. Oh, you know, your setup was so wonky. But now here it is, the pitch. We have these socially progressive, religiously based, profit-motivated video games that you're going to leverage into usefulness using game cults, which are platforms by which people are manipulated emotionally and mentally towards the end and the agenda of the game's creators. But for a good reason, for a good cause. Okay. Jeez.
It's clear that something like this is coming.
Dude, it's already here. What are you talking about? Have you been paying attention to the video game industry over the last 15 years alone? Seriously. Or hell, just the last 5 years. Okay, socially conscious gaming. Have you seen any of the controversies about socially conscious gaming and representation and promoting this message and promoting that message? Have you heard anything about what goes on inside video game companies? With who they decide to hire, what storylines they decide to tell, what kind of agendas they're promoting? Either you are willfully ignorant of the present, or, and you might not be wrong. I suppose, again, I have to consider what audience is he speaking to. Speaking to people who have absolutely no idea about any of this, which is entirely possible, I suppose. But to anybody who actually knows anything about what's been going on in video games or just social media culture for the last, decade or so, you're not delivering anything new. You really aren't. You're not telling me anything that we don't already know and haven't already experienced and haven't already seen the results of. Thank you, Scanner Daphne, again. Tithe Quest, Arbor Day Online, the possibilities. I know, right? I mean, gosh, what about Digital Crusade? Oh, wait, no. Oh, come on, man.
The question is, what can we do about it now?
Do about what? Leveraging people's religious beliefs into profit? Oh, gosh, I don't know. If only there was a concept out there.
As we've learned from social media, technological fixes and regulatory restrictions will only go so far.
You keep talking like social media as an entity, as a tool, is something that has never occurred in the world before. That technology that increases communication and dissemination of information amongst the masses just suddenly appeared when social media arrived. Oh yeah, let's not talk about the regulation of television or radio or books or anything else. This is driving me absolutely up the wall. Okay, benevolent condescension. If I didn't already circle it, and I didn't, I'm circling it now. You gotta be kidding me, dude. You have to be kidding me. The world did not begin with social media. I feel like I'm having an argument about the Trump presidency, where it's like, oh, nothing prior to Trump ever happened before and everything's shocking now. You want to talk about how society is degrading bit by bit? It's about pretending like nothing about the past ever happened, that the past never occurred, that everything that is happening now is new and couldn't possibly have been expected or anticipated or thought of ahead of time. You know, by ignoring or destroying the past, you're only dooming people to repeat it. Thank you, Ministry of Wrongthink, an apropos title if any there was here. Video games is literally where it all started for many of us. It was the first red pilling for a lot of people on YouTube. That's what GG was about. And there are a lot of things that happened relatively recently because, no, I'm not trying to make it clear. I am not meaning to diminish the impact of social media for some good, right? I mean, the accessibility, the interconnectivity people have to communicate, share ideas and everything is certainly greater now than it has been before. And there are unique variables to that weren't the same when television first started out, right? Or even when the internet first started. It is different, right? But it's not so radically different that you can't see parables or comparables between these and past media revolutions. Okay. And yeah, Thunderfoot, who some of you may like, some of you may not. Either way, very significant figure on YouTube back in the day, and to a certain extent now. He made a statement back in the olden days when he was doing videos debunking like religions and things like that. He said, the internet is where religions go to die. And whether you believe that or not, certainly the internet conceivably is where misapprehensions can go to be challenged more readily than they could have in the past. Not necessarily religions alone, but misbeliefs about things, right? The government says X, and you actually are able to look and see, does that track with known information? Right? It's not as easy these days to keep a secret or to keep a lie, but more people willing to believe it can perpetuate it. But the lifespan of those things, I think, is shrinking because of social media, because people are able to access more information and get many more perspectives on things than they could in the past. Do you have to sift through and actively make an effort to suss out what is a reliable source versus an unreliable source? Yes. Critical thinking, interrogating things that are being told to you, is a skill that is more important now than ever. If anything, what I wish this speaker would be promoting is critical thinking, is teaching your kids to think critically, to not believe the first thing that they're told just because it riles them up, but to check their sources. And I know this sounds like old school skeptics kind of stuff, but there's a ring of truth to it. That's what I attempt to promote here, is like, listen to what people are saying, thinking about what they're saying, compare it to what they said before, and see if it makes any sense, right? That's most important. Not to trust the first person that says something that you like to hear. Are they telling the truth? Are they telling the whole truth? Anyway, there's my rant.
And in the attention economy of political priorities, game cults are clearly quite low, but that's okay. It means we still have time to do something about them.
Do something about them? Oh yeah, like take control of them for your own personal ends and agendas and profit? Oh yeah, sure. There's time left. Yeah, you know, video games haven't really taken hold in society yet.
That's why I think that everyone, from policymakers to players to game designers and gamers, should be having a conversation about what this means right now.
Oh, because yeah, no one's ever talked about this at all. Yeah, you are the first person to ever bring up such thoughts, ever. Yeah, because clans and guilds and little mini societies and subcultures and games and gamers, those never existed until now. I wasn't talking about Vampire the Masquerade and using terms and names of things in public that anybody listening in would have no idea how to decode. Yeah, subcultures in gaming, yeah, it's new. Never happened before.
If you are a media company, you should be talking to experts in radicalization. If you are a game company, you should be speaking to those who don't understand gaming dynamics in the communities around them. If you're a church or a religious institution, you should be understanding how people use these tools to build beliefs and what they're believing. And finally, perhaps most importantly—
Oh, you mean like Hezbollah or white supremacist groups? If you're a religious organization, you really should be finding out how to leverage gaming into promoting your beliefs. Like Hezbollah.
to build beliefs and what they're believing. And finally, perhaps most importantly, if you're a parent, you should be playing games with your kids.
You should be playing outside with your kids. You should be teaching them physical fitness. You should be showing them around the world, teaching them about real things, not getting them all cloistered indoors and all insular in their interactions. I mean, I've been the reverse, right? I grew up in a time before all this stuff was happening, and I played outside. I went places. I biked to the game shop or the card store, or went down to the subway or the arcade, you know, actually meet space type things. And over time, because of social stressors or the pandemic or just the necessity of things or the convenience of things, I become far more a hermit than I probably is healthy. I'm sure a lot of us have. You know, but if I had the excuse and I had the responsibility of raising a child in this world today, the last place I would be spending the majority of my time with them is on the computer. If I have any sense at all as a reasonable human being, if I was an adult, I would not be spending a majority of my time with my child on a computer or using a device or playing a game, online or otherwise. Outside, doing things, building things, teaching things. You know, and certainly I would want to share parts of my life with my child that meant something to me. And some of those are gaming. And some of those are movies and comic books and things that have been marked as evil in the past, but which I had fun with and I learned a lot from and my imagination went wild for. But it's all about moderation. It's all about seeing where the deficiencies are in imbibing in that culture too much, or making it a primary part of your interactivity with people. It's not something I'd promote if I were a father. I would find a balance. I'd find a healthy balance.
To understand the world that they're growing up in and to have a conversation with them about the role that they might play in it. Someone's going to connect these dots.
Oh, someone somewhere is eventually going to connect these dots. You're right. Someday, these revelatory dots you put out in front of us will be connected. Oh, and such a red letter day that will be.
The question is, who is going to be our modern day Hassan?
Who's going to be our modern day assassin guild leader? Well, you already told us it was a QAnon shaman.
And will the games of tomorrow be games of subjugation and domination, or inspiration and liberation? It's really up to us. Thank you.
And the games you're promoting leverage religious beliefs for holy coin. Okay. Do we want to listen to the applause? Let's listen to the applause for a second. There we go. We got our dose of applause. Holy cats, everybody. Wow. 13, it's about 11 or 12 minutes worth of fear-mongering, and then about 3 minutes of, I've got the solution, and it's the exact same thing I was talking about using the exact same mechanisms that I was warning you about. I mean, selling snake oil back to people after he's already told you it's poison, that's a thing, I guess. Anyway, here's the card as it stands. I'm going to go over it one more time by myself. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, hold on to them. We'll get to them momentarily. Collectivize his own demographic. Nah, he never really did do that, as far as I can tell. He never said, you know, as a whatever, man, adult, whatever. He talked a little bit about being a father, but I don't know if that, I don't think he went quite as far as to collectivize himself within that demographic. So systemic institutional. Yes, our politics, our religious institutions, so on, he did at least allude to that concept. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Certainly inclusion by bringing communities together, sense of purpose, playing field, on and on and on and on, such like that. And consequently, because of that.
Bingo.
What?
Of course!
We have our first bingo down the diagonal. So there's that. Plays victim. I never really got the sense that he was playing the victim. So, no. Microaggression, unconscious bias. Not overtly. If there's an argument there, you're going to have to give it to me, guys, because I don't see it outright. Privilege. He never said the word. There might be an argument in the aggregate. I will leave that to you guys. Patriarchy. No, he never talked about any kind of gender dynamics or sexual dynamics. Weightless example. I mean, QAnon. He describes QAnon and he doesn't even link it to video games. He linked it to like a role-playing game, which makes no sense. It's like a live action role-playing, and that's not video games. So as far as that's concerned, QAnon was the worst possible example he could come up with of everything that he could come up with. You know, there's actually cults out there in the modern day who have used video games to promote their propaganda. I mean, he used that a little bit with Hezbollah and everything, but QAnon? That's just current events emotion baiting right there. That's just nonsense. Wage gap. He talked about economies, Bitcoin, his son earning enough through NFTs to take care of him when the world collapses. So yeah, I'll take that one. Feminism. Again, he never really talked about sexual dynamics, so I don't really see that that's much there, but I could be surprised. Marginalization. Not that I can tell. I'm trying to make sure in my mind that I'm not conjoining what he said versus things that I was talking about, because I was talking about, nerd culture. You guys mentioned that too, but that's not really. Yeah, I'll leave that. Word salad. I can't say it was word salad, right? Like I think it was Chicago Mike came in and said word salad, but now what he said about QAnon was ridiculous and definitely a WTF. But I understood. It wasn't like, I don't remember there being an instance where he was just like belting out words for the sake of words. So if you guys have an argument for that, I'm going to need some reminder of an example, because I understood what he was saying throughout the deal. Self-vilification or wretchedness. I don't think he ever categorized himself as part of the problem. He was very pro him the whole time. Argumentative non sequitur. Something he brought up and it never came up again. I mean, I kind of want to say the million COVID deaths. That one, yeah, like that was such. If QAnon was a weak sauce example, that was a weak sauce point of argument. That just fell completely flat to me. But maybe that's just me. Mind reading assumes motives. Yes, he assumes that none of this stuff has ever occurred before. None of these thoughts have ever been had before. And no media revolution of any kind previous to this has any similarity. Also, that his entire audience is a bunch of idiots. Anyway. Anecdote that probably never happened. I don't want to double dip on the million deaths thing. Although he didn't give many anecdotes. Well, the step, I actually don't know enough about the reality of the quote unquote QAnon process to say that he was wrong when he was talking about the indoctrination part of it. That might be, I don't know. I might need some help with that one. And lastly, leaves out vital context. Yeah, like I said, history. Why not bring up something like what happened when television first came out, or the radio, or even War of the Worlds? If you wanted to bring up an example of a new, relatively new mass media being used in a way that was unexpectedly detrimental to the populace and the dangers of it, why not bring up Orson Welles' War of the Worlds? It's a classic example of new media being given an inordinate amount of trust and being believed beyond reason. Right? It's such low-hanging fruit, but also very accurate in trying to foresee what could happen with new media. Didn't even go there. I'm honestly surprised. War of the Worlds seems like one of the easiest ones you could bring up if you wanted to start talking about the potential dangers of a new media, whether it's video games, which isn't a new media, or social media, which is a relatively new media. All right, so there's the card as I have it. If you have arguments for squares to be circled, put them into the chat now. Be sure to tag me in your comments so I can see it more clearly. Also, a reminder at the top of the chat box, the GoFundMe for Rosebud, Twisted Skipster's little puppy dog who was hit by a car and needs some medical assistance. They're not asking for a whole lot. I think the total is $800. I'll take a look at where we're at by the end of the show. But if you have a couple of bucks to spare, certainly that would be appreciated. Okay, so going up the thing here. Scribelite, mind reading aside, isn't brainwashing via video games? Oh, that's also a good point. Isn't brainwashing via games unconscious bias? You showed us the guilt by association funnel, claiming that it changes your biases without your knowing. Oh, that is a good argument. Yes. All right, Mr. Tickle Trunk. You know what you just did. And now everyone will too.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Right?
Yeah!
Double bingo. We got 2. Can we get more? Oh my gosh. Any more arguments, guys? Keep them coming. Let's see. Mystery Scribelite. Don't want to double dip on the million COVID deaths thing. Non sequitur equals lying about Kyle Rittenhouse. Anecdote that didn't happen. Reason for. Oh, that's right. That's right. Kyle Rittenhouse. Boy, you guys got me on that one. Yeah, I forgot about that. I got so caught up in everything else. And because of that.
Give me a
Bingo.
silly. One
Bingo.
only, please.
Right?
Yeah!
Triple bingo. Oh my gosh, we're on a roll, guys. Any more? Let's see. Spud gun, white supremacy generally means white privilege. Yeah, might bit too much of a stretch there. I need something. I already used the whole white nationalist thing. Yeah, an organization or a belief system based around white supremacy, that's one thing. But the concept of privilege, I need something else. Let's see. Let me scroll up a bit in case I missed anything. Let's see. Ready did weightless example. Advocast Diabli, weightless example. He gave us an example, and said, I quote, "What does this have to do with anything? Nothing." Yes. Did I already circle it, or didn't I? Yeah, I already got that one, didn't I? My brain is in completely other places right now that I'm trying to look through. Yeah, weightless example. Okay. Oh, and Bridget is here. There was a cult in Japan that did it. So many examples, but Q grabs eyes. Yeah, I think it was. What was that YouTube channel I watched where they talked about the cult video game? I think it was either Atrocity Stream or maybe it was. Oh, I forget. There was a YouTube channel that did a whole like little mini documentary on the Japanese cult that made the cheesy little Flash video game as part of their recruitment drive or propaganda. I think it was Atrocity. Is it Atrocity Stream? It's Atrocity something, Atrocity Guide, something like that. Good channel, neat documentaries, crazy stuff. It's like one of those down the rabbit hole kind of channels. Good stuff there. Shadow Sonata. Aum Shinrikyo. Yes, I believe that's correct. Yes, Aum Shinrikyo. Atrocity Guide. That's the channel. I think if I'm not completely off my gourd here, check out the YouTube channel Atrocity Guide, and I think one of her earliest documentaries was on that video game and that cult in general. Any other arguments for squares to be circled? Let's see. The fuck asshole. I missed it. I missed too much to say. Did he say he was a gamer at all? If so, it collectivized his own demographic. It didn't sound like he was a gamer so much as that he had accepted playing games with his kids. I didn't hear a lot from him about, like, when I was a kid, I used to do blah, blah, blah. So, and just by his own arguments and seeming lack of knowledge of basic video game history, I wouldn't classify him as a gamer. He might be a poser, but Mr. E goes along in the same lines. Collectivize his own demographic. Gamers are a demographic. Cults are also a demographic. Did this moron suggest he was a gamer? If not, he still collectivized others in a demographic. But he needs to use, so the whole collectivize his own demographic thing is where the speaker presumes to represent some element of their makeup. If he had said something like, as a father, or as a straight white male, or if he made some kind of like generalized statement using himself as the example for an entire demographic, that kind of thing. If he was trying to represent a demographic in his statements, then in a way that was like demonstrably he's trying to say that he represents something, that's when it's collectivized his own demographic. So maybe it's there. Maybe he said something specifically that I'm not remembering. But just sort of referring to demographics or to trends doesn't necessarily click, if that makes sense. I'm just trying to make sure. Did he call himself a gamer? I'm not sure. Oh, collectivizes futurists. Oh, there you go. Okay. Tyrannus? Yeah, I'm a futurist. And as a futurist, you're right. I got it in. It's like the seeing the horse's nose go straight, just slightly over the line in front of the other horse, right? By a nose. Yes, that was him collectivizing his own demographic. So in that sense,
Won't somebody please?
Bingo. B-I-N-G-O.
Okay!
Right?
quadruple bingo. Okay, we're getting down to the wire here. Any other arguments for squares to be circled? Because like I say, word salad. Like I said, he never sounded nonsensical, like just verbiage for the sake of verbiage. I understood what he was saying, even if what he was saying either didn't make any sense as an argument or just sounded ridiculous. Patriarchy, privilege. There might be an argument there. I'm not quite sure. Self-vilification. Did he ever cite himself as a problem? I don't think so. He kept citing himself as the guru, the knowledgeable one. Marginalization. I mean, I suppose, if I was being very generous for myself, I'd say that in the reverse, he was talking about things that were on the margins that became mainstream because of video games. I mean, he essentially made the argument that were it not for gaming culture and social media, QAnon would never have had any traction. In fact, I just convinced myself. So yeah, I'm going to circle that one. Yeah, a little late in the game, but I can do that. Okay, marginalization, that's covered. Let's see. Mr. E, I would say he was a moron trying to sound intelligent. He didn't go off the rails. Yeah, he didn't. Like I say, if you consider or imagine that his audience was made up of people who have absolutely no knowledge of, gaming culture or have no historical sense of how games and gaming have developed or how socialization and gaming has developed over the last 10, 15, 20 years, then maybe he sounded like he knew what he was talking about. And maybe, for all I know, he just found all this out yesterday and he thinks that he's discovered something interesting. But yeah, I wasn't swayed by anything he said. It's nothing new. Absolutely nothing new. And nothing that he was talking about as what might happen in the future hasn't already happened. It's already been done. It already is being done, as he showed. Games either already created or in progress to do the very things that he said that they should be used for and could be used for. So, too sweet. I removed my comment out of respect to Scribe. Well, now I'm really curious. What what would have offended me? You're censoring yourself for my benefit? Okay, well, I don't know. If you have criticisms, by all means. I did my stream the other day on The Punisher and my complaints about The Punisher and what's been happening with the character and everything. And one of the most well thought out comments I got to that, long, many paragraphs and points, effectively argued against or conflicted with a lot of the things I had to say. And I pinned that comment because, if you got something to say, I'm not going to, dish you for it or anything, unless it was something else, unless I was wrong, you were right. Oh, well, you should have left it up. That's fine. It's okay. I'm not going to gloat or so. Well, I mean, unless it's the speaker or something, but no, it's fine. Let's see. Oh yeah. Shigone. Yeah, the speaker implied that video games led up to January 6th on the NOS. Yeah, first he describes the the progression of development for a QAnon member, and it has nothing to do with video games, but he includes that entire argument in a presentation about the danger of video game cults. It was something to behold. It was something to behold. All right, guys, anything else? Zanwal, there was talking about the game that preserved indigenous knowledge marginalization. Yeah, that's true. That too. That's also true. Yeah, and I did a whole TEDx on indigenous knowledge of science. Indigenous knowledge of science, and then we listened for 12 minutes as that guy never made an argument that indigenous knowledge was science, or that indigenous knowledge wasn't already accepted as part of science if it was actually a scientific process. I've covered these topics before. I'll probably do it again in the future. Anyway, everybody, I think that's about as far as we can go. I don't think there's any room left to maneuver. Of course, if you have arguments for squares to be circled, for those of you that are listening in the future that you think retroactively should be included, by all means, put them in the comments below. I could be swayed into declaring a retroactive bingo if there's a good enough argument. Haven't done it before, but I can see the future because I'm a futurist like that. And by the way, in the future, I see it now, very vaguely. It's very hazy right now. Oh yes, it's New Year's Day. It's Sunday, this coming Sunday at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. There'll be the Sunday stream starring me on Sunday talking about a thing, maybe New Year's resolutions, maybe something else. I'm not quite sure yet. Haven't figured it out. We'll see if I survive New Year's Eve. But hopefully, if you're sober and not suffering from a hangover at that time, you can join me then or watch it later. And of course, as always, every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, you'll find me here for another episode of TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk or an actual TED Talk like the one we just witnessed for information and radicalization. I call it informalization. Radical indignation. Rad formation. There you go. Rad formation. There you go. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Before we leave, I'm going to take a look at the GoFundMe for at the top of the chat box for Little Rosebud and see where things are at. Excellent. $270 for an $800 goal. And everything donated at least within the last hour or so. Thank you guys so much for those of you that chipped in on the show. And anybody who might, if you're able to, if you can't chip in, I completely understand time of year and everything. But if you would take the time to take the link and share it out on your social media, as evil a force as we know that is, perhaps we can do some good for Little Rosebud. So thank you so much for your generosity, guys. Both to Rosebud and to myself tonight. Thank you so very much. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved and so nice to each other. Such a positive community, just a positive social group that gets together and, susses through different belief systems and stuff, all for an agenda that has a point to it, led by a charismatic leader. And no, I'm not running a cult. Not yet. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you had a good rest of your night, a good rest of your week. Happy, safe, and fun new year ahead of you. I hope you all do enjoy it. I hope 2023 is a better year for all of us than 2022 was. Fingers crossed. Knock Formica. And please, everyone, I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.